Okay, so tonight I wanted to share another one of the folktales from this very unique book of mysteries and myths because I'm sure most of you, no one's gonna ever, like, these stories are so old, no one tells them anymore. And this one is from, I think, Samoa or somewhere like that. It's called The Sun's Unwanted Gift. I wanted to retell it because it is a different version of the Pandora myth, but and I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with the Greek one, but this one is a different culture. So it starts out, the awe inspired by nature's elemental forces was a wellspring of world mythology, and Polynesian myth was no exception. A story from Tonga warned of the devastating legacy of a union between the sun god and a mortal woman. Yes, I'm smart enough to realize that. That isn't really part of the story, but it's just, presenting the change of genres, and is from Tonga. So, crossing the heavens one day, the sun's gaze fell upon a beautiful, half-naked woman who was catching fish. Immediately attracted to her, he decided to approach her in human form, and 9 months later, she bore him a son, Sismatella. I think that's at least as close enough as my pronunciation is gonna get. The boy grew up a handsome youth, and when the time came to marry, he had no trouble finding a bride, but he wanted his father's blessing on the union. So, at his mother's suggestion, he climbed to the top of the island's highest mountain to beg the sun's permission for him to take a wife. His appeal did not go unanswered. 2 bundles dropped down from the sky, and with them came a warning: only one should be opened, while the other must remain untouched. He returned home with the packages, and when he unwrapped the first, he found a treasure of gold and silver inside. He kept close watch on the other bundle to make sure that the god's instructions were obeyed, and it lay unopened for months. But then one day, he and his wife went out together fishing. In the heat of the afternoon, the young man fell asleep, and while he dozed, his wife came across the mysterious package. Like her Greek counterpart, Pandora, she was consumed by curiosity to know what might be inside, and the consequences of her inquisitiveness were to prove just as dire. For in opening the bundle, she released storms and tempests into the world, and she and her husband became their first victims when the savage winds capsized their boat, sending them to a watery grave beneath the waves. And maybe you can see the one picture they include. Here it is, just the sun and him praying to the sun, and well, that was sort of like Pandora, but not as realistic. Have more fantasy in it, because if they were both out fishing, how did she open the bundle box? But whatever. These are all just myth. They're mythology. They're based in superstition and whatever. Most of them. But I recently saw something about when the pilgrims or some colonizers told the indigenous people, hey, if it wasn't for us, you'd still be worshiping the sun. And the chief said, well, at least the sun's real. And yes, that is true. The sun is very, you can see it, so of course it's real. And I wanted to share one more story with you tonight. This one's from India. It's called The King and His Good Chaplain. Not everyone appreciated the Buddha's holy works. Siddhartha, the Buddha to be, once served as a priest to King Yasapani of Benares, but fell foul of the king's corrupt advisor. The royal advisor, Kalaka, resented the holy presence of the Buddha to be, since it highlighted his own corruption. The constant check on his own ambitions was bad enough, but the priest had recently ruled correctly and scrupulously in a case he himself had attempted to pervert. He resolved to get rid of the meddling holy man, so, whispering lies and calumnies to the king, and persuading him to fear his chaplain's growing popularity among the people, Kalaka coaxed his royal master into laying a trap for the priest. He convinced the king to set him a series of impossible tasks and then put him to death when he failed to complete them. For the first test, the king ordered the Buddha to build him a pleasure garden, but allowed him only a day to complete it. The priest thus spent a sleepless night, wondering what on earth he was going to do, for he knew it would take him hundreds of days and nights to accomplish what he had to do in one. But his answer came from heaven. The god Shakra appeared by his bedside and told him not to worry. He assured the anguished chaplain that the appointed task would be completed with the dawn. The morning sun rose to reveal a green garden of delectable beauty and exoticism. The king was astonished and alarmed. Setting his chaplain a series of ever more challenging tasks, he found him easily accomplishing them all with Shakra's divine assistance. Creating a beautiful lake, a pleasure palace, and a huge dazzling jewel, the astonished king was finally forced to recognize that his chaplain enjoyed the support of the gods. It was Kalaka, he realized, who was practicing against virtue. King Yasapani embraced his priest's friendship and immediately put his scheming counselor to death. And then you might be able to see this is the picture they include, which just looks like some leaves and the sun and pleasure garden, I guess. Or part of it at least. Now this story kind of sounds like it took place in either northern India or Tibet or something, because it does talk about the Buddha, and I think the Buddha spent more time in Tibet than India, but whatever. It's probably not real. It's just a story, so I guess that's all I have for you tonight. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching.